This week, the sword of Baghdad swings lower over the necks of both presidents. The executive contest of 1864 will decide the legacy of Lincoln. Many worrying a Democrat victory means the independence of Davis. While the hope of a Jacksonian electoral victory strengthens the Confederate cause, the recent loss of Atlanta might spell a military defeat before the next commander-in-chief could take office. Petersburg, Virginia. General Lee is getting reports every second, making it more apparent he is greatly outnumbered. The reinforcements sent to the valley are recalled, Sheridan's HQ. The commander has been waiting for this, not wishing to strike his opponent Jubal early till the recall of General Anderson and his supporting divisions. To be kept up to date, he has the Army of West Virginia at Berryville, intercepting Confederate communications. September 3rd, George Crook, Army of West Virginia. He watched as his pickets rushed back. The division of Kershaw on their march back to the Army of Northern Virginia have accidentally collided with the Union monitoring force. Surprise is shared by both sides. Crook is preparing for dinner. His force is setting up camp, and Kershaw's force is in a marching column who have to throw off their knapsacks. The following battle is an improvised mess. Companies crash into each other, and bayonet charges shift the battle line back and forth. Reinforcements surge forward to hold the Union line. The initial rebel charge battered Joseph Thorburns' division. Commander Duval has rushed to the rescue. Colonel Rutherford B. Hayes takes his regiments forward, letting nothing stop him. Gunfire doesn't phase the Federals, and a stone wall is merely an obstacle to be climbed over. The initial beaten brigades of Thoburn rally, and with volley fire, stall the enemy advance. The heavens were fairly illuminated by the flashes of our own and the enemy's guns. The rain and darkness of night signal the slowing of battle, but random rifle fire continues to the fort. Both sides sent further reinforcements, Early and Sheridan sending more men to the slaughter. Instead of continuing the battle, Kershaw realizes he's being tempted into destruction. Both sides lost 200 men. An unexpected skirmish ends in an inconclusive withdrawal. Kershaw falls back to Winchester, Virginia. Atlanta, Georgia. The citizens and soldiers watch as Major General William Tecumseh Sherman gallops down the street, examining his prize. What started all those months ago has become the greatest triumph of his career. Even the aggressive Sherman is ready to rest. Hood is south, taken out of action for now, reassembling the tattered thing he calls an army. The 8th, Sherman issues the infamous Special Field Order No. 67.
The city of Atlanta, being exclusively required for warlike purposes, will at once be vacated by all except the armies of the United States, and such civilians employees as may be retained by the proper departments of government. The chief quartermaster, Colonel Easton, will at once take possession of buildings of all kinds, of all staple articles such as cotton, tobacco, and etc. Make such disposition of them as is required by existing regulations, or such orders as he may receive from time to time from the proper authorities.
The Union has had issues with civilian populations in cities of military importance. The most blunt action is forced evacuation. The order is immediately unpopular, but Sherman stands by it. He had sent a letter to Hood the day before informing the rebel general of the order, suggesting a truce for the transfer of civilians. John Bell is outraged, and this action derails a separate consideration of prisoner transfer. Despite the emotions, reason prevails, and the truce is completed. Japan, Straits of Shimonosuke? I'm talking about the shogunate, it isn't even on the map. Even during a civil war, we make time for colonialism. These straits have recently been closed to all Western powers, including us, against a treaty that we forced them to sign. Instead of taking this out with the threat of violence, we skip right to the violence. The big boys of imperialism arrange their vessels for battle. The British bring their ships to bear. The French load their cannons. And surprisingly, the Dutch are here. We take the straits and reopen trade. We force Japan to pay a pretty penny. Nice adventure for a September day. On the topic of ships, Admiral Farragut, fresh off the great victory at Mobile Bay, is requested by Secretary of the Navy Gideon Welles to transfer to a different squadron so Wilmington, North Carolina can be taken. Unfortunately, the old Farragut can't. He had already requested leave to care for his failing health. It's everyone's favorite time, a poor resource to conflicting events. Luckily, this time it's just the death of a general. Brigadier John Hunt Morgan is probably the worst famous rebel rider. His raids fail, but he is still looked at fondly. That terrible band of men he has brought together are resting in Greenville, Tennessee, when the federal forces in the area get a tip of his location either by a young boy or a former soldier of Morgan. Union cavalry surround the house Morgan is resting in, and either he surrenders and is murdered, or more likely he makes a run for it and is shot. He either dies instantly, or he doesn't. With the death of Morgan, the rebellion loses a general. I understand why he is so well liked. New Orleans, Louisiana. The votes are in. The state has ratified the new Constitution. Slavery is ended. The Union forever. The next day in Annapolis, Maryland, the convention there adopts the new Constitution ending slavery and strengthens its ties to the Union. Back-to-back victories for ending the blight of bondage. Joe McClellan's office, Orange, New Jersey. Last week, he was nominated by the Democrats to the highest office in the land. On the 8th, he accepts this nomination in a very standard letter. I have the honor to acknowledge the receipt of your letter informing me of my nomination by the Democratic National Convention, recently assembled at Chicago, as their candidate at the next election for President of the United States. In my mind and heart, the love and reverence for the Union Constitution, laws, and flag of our country pressed upon me in early youth. These feelings have thus far guided the course of my life, and must continue to do so to its end. But right before he says those all-important words of acceptance, he attacks the party's platform. A vast majority of our people, whether in the Army and Navy or at home, would as I would hail with unbound joy the permanent restoration of peace on the basis of the Union under the Constitution, without the effusion of another drop of blood. But no peace can be permanent without union. As to the other subjects presented in the resolution of the convention, I need only say that I should seek in the Constitution of the United States and the laws framed in accordance therewith, the rule of my duty, and the limitations of executive power, endeavor to restore economy and public expenditure, reestablish the supremacy of law, by the operation of a more vigorous nationality, resume our commanding position among the nations of the earth. He has broken from his own party, but he still in the end accepts the nomination. This is confusing. What does a vote on the Democratic ticket mean? A pro-war president? Anti-war vice president? Most likely an anti-war representative and senator? The Democrats win. Will there be an immediate peace or a continuation of the conflict? The uncertainty is felt by citizens, reporters, generals, and politicians. Not even Lincoln knows what to make of this. Washington, D.C., White House. Lincoln's week has been busy but fruitful. First, he receives knowledge of Atlanta falling, which coupled with Mobile has not only restarted the Union, but has caused a fervor of patriotic support which increases his chances in the election. He orders celebrations on the 5th and 7th. He writes to organizations expressing thanks, attending public events, smiling and waving his way to a second term. The 9th, he discusses relaxing trade regulations on cotton with his cabinet. This doesn't sound busy, and that's because it's the surface. Lincoln has greater political poise. The Democrats might have shot themselves in the foot for this oncoming presidential race, but Lincoln is three-footed, tied to Fremont and the radical Republicans. He needs Fremont out of the race. But how? Blair. Montgomery Blair, the Postmaster General. For some reason, he is hated by radicals, probably because he's a former Democrat and most Republicans are former Whigs, so they question his commitment, which I find absurd. He defended Dred Scott and supports abolition. He has performed well in his position, keeping mail deliveries, coming up with new popular policies, and expanding operations. Right now he's on vacation, but is requested to return immediately. The Assistant Postmaster General is needed elsewhere, campaigning. Blair dutifully returns. Can Lincoln really sack this man for political favors? A friend and effective subordinate? We don't become president without making some deals with the devil. As our dear Dan Sickles waits to see what the president wants him for next, he rests at the Berryville Hotel. The famous hotel is home not just to Sickles, but also Hooker. The two friends waste no time catching up with each other. The Mexican ambassador, greatest chief of staff, and the British ambassador. As Sickles walks the halls of the historic home, he spots the only Democrat more famous than himself, McClellan! That's where the week ends. What will the future hold? Will Sickles go temporarily insane and shoot McClellan? Probably not, but that would make an amazing episode. The truth is the popularity contest that Lincoln and McClellan is closing in. And while Little Mac's promise to the loyal men of this nation is great, the question is, do the Democrats agree? Will the path to destruction be paved with the promises of the president? Hi, it's the entire Civil War Bowie team here. I hope you enjoy this video. As I go into school for second year at a different school back in St. Louis. Hello, it's the entire Civil War Bowie team here. And as I go back to school, I hope you will stick with me as I explore the final months of the Civil War that will finish the project I started all those years ago. Thank you. I hope to see you next week.